guys. My name is Vanessa Anoush-Demirciyan. It's my pleasure to be your host this evening. I am the director of the Alliance Française, and I am super excited for many reasons. One, because we have French films tonight, and that's a first, and that's really good to have different languages as well, because we will also discuss later, but we will realize that we have many languages, but we still do have one Caribbean and many common topics to address together. And also because of the quality of all of the movies that you got to see tonight, and I'm sure that this discussion is going to be super interesting. So we will move on straight and we will go to our Q&A section of the evening. I am really happy to have our guests with us this evening. I'm gonna list them all quick, and then we move on to each movies, and then we'll get some time to interact with the chat. So we have with us the director of Kafou, producer actually, sorry, Gilbert Mirambeau Jr., producer of the movie Kafou that you just saw last from Haiti. Thank you for being with us tonight. We also have Ingrid Jean-Baptiste, who is the actress in Goyave that you saw. Bonsoir, Ingrid. And we do have Sousseing, I hope I'm pronouncing properly, who is one of the directors of Dark Thought, and he will be joined later with by Fremont, who is going to join us in a while. So we are going to interact a little bit, and I would like to start with Ingrid. Ladies first tonight. I'm really happy that we're having your feminine presence with us this evening among all of the movies that we had. And your movie, actually, Goyave, is directed by Nènèb Bépé and Christophe Agelan, if I'm saying right. And it's from Martinique, and it's their 4th short film. It's actually
their 10th.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm super wrong.
Yes.
Okay, their 10th.
No, it's okay.
I know it's a sensitive topic in Martinique that's being addressed, but the audience doesn't necessarily know that. So I would like you to kind of tell us a little bit about the context and what has inspired to address this topic and for the movie.
So, good evening, everybody. I do play the role of Carmen in Goyave. It's actually Goyave. There's a lot of French people that say Goyave, but the right pronunciation is Goyave, like we say voyage. So it is Goyave. Goyave is a fruit, but it's also the name of the ex-colon who is now called the Bépé in the French Caribbean, and is the Bépé who used to own plantation of Goyave, of the fruit. So they were known to be less fortunate, less prosperous, less rich than the other Bépé, the other descendant of colons that used to own plantations of sugarcane. And so there is a play on the word of the title of the film. And I come in as the Caribbean island lady that is having a relationship with a Bépé. And it's the whole story of the film is touching on a lot of different subject matters. It's a love story, after all, between Bépé and so a descendant of a colon, which we have in Martinique and also in Guadeloupe, but even more in Martinique. And with this singer and radio host who is a Black woman.
And actually, I think that's what's beautiful in this movie is that you do address a sensitive topic, but they do address it with a lot of poetry. It's beautiful, and it's I find it. And because we have you, tonight, I would like to have maybe like your feminine perspective on that and on the situation, how it is now, and if how it is like with the relationship with mixed unions today, and if it still carries the weight of history, of judgments, if you still have in the actual Martinican society the notion among Bépé to preserve their race, as it's mentioned in the movie. If you can tell us how as it is as for a woman as well in this situation.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for actually saying that there's a lot of poetry in the film. Also, I just want to address that quickly. The two directors are actually, they were doing poetry in bars and restaurants before, like in places where you could perform poetry, like it was like slam. And so that's their background. And so that's why they incorporated it into the film. So to talk about the way it currently is in Martinique, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same, and that's unfortunate. But it's very, the roots are really, really deep, and so it's very, very complex history. So to deconstruct this society is very difficult in the French Caribbean, and we're still a region of France. We're not independent. Most people think that the island of Martinique or Guadeloupe are independent islands. We are not. We're considered a region and a department of France, so that comes with a lot of advantages, but also a lot of other things that are not quite advantageous. And so as far as the relationship between the Bépé and preserving the race, I think that there's like the new generation, meaning the kids of the grandkids, are actually a little bit more open, but they're still open in a way of having friends that are part of their circle, but having to marry someone who's not from their, in a way, race, but it's not a race, it's more of a group of people, like a society. That's still very, very rare. Yeah.
So you do still feel it pretty strongly. And thank you for the correction of Goyave. And I mean, I should be ashamed. I'm also a French teacher.
No, it's okay. All French people do it. And I did it myself. At first, the director was like, do you say voyage or do you say voyage? And I said, okay, I got it.
that helps.
So, but that's all French people do it. So.
And I did not know the reference of it to actually the difference of plantation and of like kind of hierarchy among Bépé, and then you mentioned also the fact that there's also Bépé in Guadeloupe, but it is really something that's particular to Martinique in a way, and also probably because it was the capital, the colony's capital. So I guess it's like Barbados in the English-speaking island. There's some history, some heritage that's also remaining from that. Thank you very much, Ingrid. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
We'll get back. We will get back with more discussion and more questions when we move on a little bit.
Thank you so much.
I would like to address. Sorry, I would like to address to Gilbert now. Yes, that's better. Bonsoir, Gilbert.
Bonsoir.
How are you?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys. Nice to meet you all. So I'm actually a writer too. I'm a writer on the film. So I'm a producer and a writer. So
and you are shooting right now, you were saying.
Yes,
you're shooting a movie right now.
I'm filming my second feature. Well, this is a mid-length movie. Some festival it's considered mid-length. Some festivals consider it feature. And this is a feature. This is sort of the continuity of Kafou, like a sequel. And it's like 6 months later. So literally, and the next film will be called Malachong. It's a political thriller well, these two guys are going right in the middle of a political conspiracy. I'm a political activist, so and my cinema is kind of engaged and militant, so that's why my next film is on that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that we can kind of tell and the movie is quite powerful, Kafou in itself. Can you explain Kafou? Am I wrong? Like, is like, are you crazy? Is there what Kafou stands for? The name itself.
Kafou, well, in English it's crossroad. It's Carrefour in French or Kafou in Creole, but it's Carrefour. It was purposely chosen. We had several names, but at the end we chose Kafou because we were at a crossroad in our career, in our personal lives. Anyone finds themselves at some point at a crossroad in their lives and they have to make a choice. And as you've seen in the movie, we kind of put the two characters, the main characters, to each time to make a choice, each time until the end. And there's another thing as well in the meaning of Kafou. The most of the film, as you notice, is at a crossroad. So you have these two guys at a crossroad. And it's a coincidence, by the way. We didn't choose that. It's really
not really though, but yes.
It is really a coincidence. It's because we really like Tarantino, and the two guys, they have a theater background, so we kind of shot it in a theater mode. And then the final layer, that was the purpose that we call it Kafou. So you have the invisible world meeting with the visible world. And, in our mythology, we have Legba. Legba is the master of the crossroads. He's the one, he's like a spirit that you meet only at the crossroad. And as you've seen in the movie, he's sort of represented by the dog, but it's not really a dog. It's just one of the guys think that Legba is there, and the other guy is like, dude, there's nothing. Let's move on. Let's do our thing, And the movie starts.
And that's really interesting because, well, as you say, we can see that you are, that the movie itself is very engaged politically as well, because it is also addressing very sensitive topics, and sometimes that also we can use that do relate to Haiti's realities, as we can also see it sometimes from outside. But here you really like touching it directly, and you're touching corruption, you're touching and superstition, as you say, magic, and violence. And what's very interesting for me is that, as you say, the name makes so much sense for all the reasons that you said, and that's why I say it was probably still meant to be this name. But what's interesting is that at the end they are meant to make a choice for all of the movie, but then at the end they don't really make that. It's still a choice that's given to the people. And so I would like you to tell me a bit about this end. Why this end?
Well, we shot the film. It was always 15 minutes. It became 50 minutes. 50, I forgot, 51, 52, 50 minutes, yes. And we knew that the uncle would die. Kidnapping was a huge problem back in 2004. And coincidentally, it's a new thing again in Haiti. So they're kidnapping a lot of people in Haiti as we speak. And we chose that subject because, like, the director, Bruno, which is my business associate as well, is shooting as we speak. That's why he can't be there, by the way, everybody. And
yes, Bruno Mourral, I didn't know his name.
Yeah, Bruno Mourral. And his father was killed in 2004. So the movie was very important to him, because back then they were killing not killing a lot of people. It's just there insecurity, violence, and that's why we chose this subject. And corruption and impunity are very strong in the whole film. So impunity it is reflected through the captain and the corruption as well. And these two guys, they are at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And yeah, so towards the end, we didn't want them to make the choice because it would have been unfair. So the other reason we wanted to shock. Obviously, it's a very shocking scene at the end, and you're like, you know, we wanted people to think like, okay, this is what's happening in several neighborhoods in Haiti, where when they're stealing a phone, a bike, a light bulb, just normal stuff, and people, they have to take justice into their own hand because there's no, the government doesn't exist anymore. We are the basic citizen is abandoned. They're abandoned, and when you don't take justice into your own hands into these neighborhoods, especially in the biggest slums in Haiti, these these small thieves become gang members, and they become kidnappers. So it becomes a huge problem in these neighborhoods. So they have to take justice. So the whole film, you have these guys, they're delivering a packet, blah blah blah. But this is a quiproquo, basically, because it's the uncle has nothing to do with the other thief that used to come to steal. So it was just on the wrong.
At the end, he even dies, but not even for the reason that that's something like, yes.
So
absolutely.
He's the wrong thief that was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Just like these two guys, they are at the wrong place at the wrong time, where this captain is doing business with them. So we wanted to leave it in a thin line where it's not the fault of anyone, in a sense, kind of. So, yeah.
But then, as you're saying, there's a lot of, impunity, because if the captain is involved, even gang-wise, as you say, it's just a vicious circle. And what you're saying is that it does really reflect a reality, because you say it's still the case, and you were sharing with us as well that even right now you went through quite some difficulties as well.
Yes, while filming the second film, February 20th, and we were coming back from a shoot in Jasmuel in the south, and we were kind of driving near a red zone, and we had cops, we had a convoy, we had everyone securing the convoy, and they attacked us. And they literally kidnapped 3 members of our crew. So we had to stop the shoot for about a week, and I had to go into negotiations with the gangs, take care of it, along with some of people in the team. And we made sure that the government took its responsibility to release our fellow Dominicans and Haitian. It was 1 Haitian and 2 Dominicans, and this was it was a big shock for us. As a matter of fact, I didn't tell you guys this earlier. On Kafou, we had a worse situation because what I'm saying, it's not. You have gangs in Brazil, you have gangs in Mexico, you have gangs all over the world, even in Jamaica, where you have paradise but Haiti happens to have this as well. I'm not saying that because Haiti is like a dark place. It's just on my set in 2016, when we were shooting Kafou, literally we had a gang leader that came on the set and he shot someone. Yeah. So it was, we had to stop the shoot. Yeah.
That's actually what I wanted to ask. I was going to ask you, but isn't even just filming difficult, dangerous?
It was difficult. It was really difficult. And we had several community, people from several backgrounds. So I had our French, Argentinians, and Haitians. So us Haitians, we were like, okay, these are two gang leaders fighting. It has nothing to do with our shoot. Are we gonna continue? But other people like coming from other backgrounds, they were like, no, we have to stop the shoot because there's a dead corpse on the set. So yes, so this is the reality, and the reality came back at us again, not only in my second film and my first film. And this is the reality. You have two guys fighting over some stupid stuff, and they're shooting at each other just because he stole a phone, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, merci, Gilbert. Thank you for sharing this. We will as well continue. Thank you for sharing your reality a bit, part of it, because as you say, it's not just all dark. But
Yes.
we're moving on. Actually, you give me a perfect transition. We're moving on to our next movie that's called Dark Thoughts, Idées Noires en français. And I have to say that I've enjoyed all the movies, definitely, but this one also because it's a movie clip and I could just like listen to it. Did you guys write it? So first, again, we have Cédric Fremont that joined us, and he is with Lucas Sousseing, and they are both the directors of the movie Dark Thoughts, Idées Noires. Bonsoir, welcome.
Bonsoir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
I'm glad to be here.
So, I would like to know if you both wrote the lyrics of the movie clip, right? You both wrote it together. Okay.
The way it happened is that the artist made the song maybe a year before we shot the movie. But we listened to it at the time, and we really wanted to do something with it, and he was kind enough to let us have the rights to the song. And as we usually do, me and my brother here, we just woke up late and took the camera and went to shoot. And we did not really write the movie, but we just made a list of shots that we thought would look good and tell the story the way we wanted.
So the story really started from actually the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, inspired by the song. But I
Okay.
don't know. It's like the song is not really narrative, but we tried to catch the mood of
Worked
it. And
really well together. Yeah, absolutely. You did an awesome job. And were you used to work together? I know that you're both pretty young. I know, Cédric, you did some festival as well. You did Trinidad. And you're all starting in your, we're all pretty young, okay? But it's still like, it's the beginning of your promising filmmaking journey. Are you used to be working together?
yeah, everything you mentioned, I did with him. He's my brother. Like even today, I can't work if he's not by my side.
Okay, great.
Yes,
Yes, Luca.
yes, we started to work together since high school, and it was pretty interesting. We met at Option Cinema, a film school, an option in film school in high school, and yes, as Cédric said, the artist Drexy didn't want to do something with this song. It was a personal song for him, and it's not a commercial song or something. And I really like the song, and we would like to use it to translate reality in Guadeloupe. So yes.
Yes, and thank you for precising, because I did not precise that you guys are from Guadeloupe. You studied in France mainland as well, but you're from Guadeloupe. And you are also, like in all movies, portraying your reality in a way. And there's a lot of things that we do see in common with other islands, and also with English-speaking Caribbean and Spanish-speaking Caribbean, because we had the movie from Cuba that could also, I mean, you will find some similarities. And all of the pictures are also very powerful in the movie clip. And we do see a lot of wings. And we do see, most of all, that picture of those wings being burnt. I mean, that for me, and there's that also idea of being on an island and, you know, being able to explore. Can you maybe tell us a bit about that symbolism of all those wings and those burning wings in those images?
Yes, of course. The thing with the wings really started because like Guadeloupe is shaped like a butterfly, and we like, I don't know, we had this thing in our heads. We wanted to tell the story of, to tell the way that this butterfly is dying because of the social conditions of living of the youth, because of drugs, because of all the things that happen around, and really break the myth of the postal cards with the beach and flowers and the sea. And really, we really wanted to show a side of Guadeloupe that people don't usually think about around the world, is the life in the cities.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I will also say that we choose black and white to contrast with the, yeah, it's an island, it's a tourism island paradise, but it's also another reality with violence, with drugs, as Cedric said, alcohol, and yeah, that's why we choose the metaphor of the butterfly wings, which are burning.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yeah, as we were saying, it's, I mean, I know here it's the same. We are in St. Vincent and it is a beautiful island, and all of our islands are beautiful islands. And there are a lot of beautiful things about them. But there is also the fact that they are islands, and sometimes we do feel like we have wings that we can't. I mean, we do feel like we are limited in some way by some borders or some limits, and yeah, in being able even to have perspective. Some people are not able to move out of their island, so you kind of cut their wings in a way without giving them a choice to. So that was really interesting. Well, now we are going to move on to some questions coming from the audience. I'm going to address them and to direct them every time. So we have a first question for Gilbert. And there have been a lot of comments from the audience about the shocking experiences that the crew had to undergo on Kafou before they found out about the kidnappings, shootings. Future Smith was going to ask, what was the most challenging part of the shoot? Was there anything that was less dramatic? Because you kind of topped it up. So topped it up. Were there anything else you have to tell us about that?
Well, Kafou was very complicated. We shot Kafou in four sessions. Each session were about 1 week or 2 weeks. Doc, which is one of the writers as well, Jean-Samuel Andri, was studying at the time in École Nationale de l'Humour in Montreal. He was studying stand-up and everything. So he had each time he had like a small vacation, he would come to shoot. So that was the first challenge. The other challenge, we were shooting at night, obviously. So it was 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours sometimes, and it was very difficult for the crew. The other thing, we were shooting in near Bel Air, not Bel Air. We were kind of in the crossroad. We're shooting next to Bel Air, next to Red Zone. So we needed to have security, and sometimes they were shooting in the air, so it's okay. The crew had to undergo that during the shoot. And the thing that was very challenging really for us is because we were shooting in a slum, in a real slum. They were bribing us all the time. They threw rocks at us. They shot at us. Not at us, but in the air to pressure us not to continue shooting because they wanted more money, obviously. And not that I would today, like when I look at it, it's because they're doing this for money. It's okay. But when back then I just wanted to shoot. I was like, okay, how much do you want? Do we have a deal? Yes. 5 minutes later, the deal is off, and they're asking for more money. So we spent.
And there's nothing you can do. Yeah. And you just have to go with the rules of, yeah.
So we spent at least 50 days negotiating each time. So I had to give money. And the other thing that was challenging, people are not cinema friendly because they're not used to see cameras, people coming to film, to shoot, and in their heads it's like NGOs coming to make money off them. So I had to explain to them, I'm a filmmaker, I'm doing a film about your reality. Actually, one of the actors lives in that slum, literally. He lives in the slum. And the story itself, by the way, just so you know, it's a true story with a guy.
Thank you.
Yes, it's based on a true story from that slum. It's a guy that was killed literally in the slum for stealing a light bulb. So we took the idea and we just explored it. We embellished it with all the things that happened to us. Like, for instance, my uncle was kidnapped twice. Bruno's father got killed. When we have friends and families that happen, same thing happened. And that's why we explored that subject. Anyway, these are the things that were really challenging. And of course, as a producer, money and production, generally speaking. Maybe she froze. Yeah. We should ask the question then. I can't see the. Yes, she froze.
En attendant, je dois dire que j'aime beaucoup le film.
Questions in the chat.
Yes. Thank you. Merci, Gilbert. Our next question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Am I back? I think I am back. Can you hear
me
now?
Yes, you hear.
Is it
You're
better?
back.
Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Well, I will not advertise for Flow because they've been doing a terrible job in St. Vincent. If I may place this here, if anyone, yes, internet connection is really, I was on my data. I mean, it's anyway. I would like to now move on to the next question for Ingrid. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Ingrid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I
So,
hear you.
I'm sorry if I am mispronouncing your name. Okay, you will excuse my French. I will take this excuse. So I have one for Jimon Bergin that asks you, Ingrid, how do you and others view the language of the people, so the Martinican Creole, versus the official language, French, and how do you think this dynamic was used in the film?
Okay, so how can I address that? There's no official language. People in Martinique speak French. They that's the first language they speak when they're born in Martinique. And in some families they speak Creole. In some other families they don't speak Creole. Sometimes at home it's not allowed to speak Creole. I know that growing up within my family, speaking Creole was not almost allowed. So it really depends on the way you grow up. It depends on your family customs. And so there's no differences between French or Creole. You grew up is a French region. So everybody speaks French. This is their first language. They speak French as they speak French in France. It's the same way, maybe with a different flow, you know, where in the south of France you have an accent, in the north you have an accent, when you're from Paris you have an accent. So, but otherwise, that's the beauty of the islands, of the French islands, because it's so diverse, but at the same time it is so French, you know. You
Yes.
go there and it's very French. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
I have to say that from the people here, I mean, even usually people who will visit Martinique from the English-speaking Caribbean, that's what they will say. Like, they will say, "Oh, it's like the Caribbean, but you do really feel like you're in France," and that's like that's really the particularity of it. But for the Creole, also, what can be surprising sometimes for outsiders is that the same decade that we were talking, like, because the film is in Creole, that's probably also why the question was raised, because there's no French being used, but really just the Creole. And everybody will, I mean, what you say is very important. And I think it's also, a lot of people can relate to that here too, and in other places where it's only since recently where people kind of re-own their identity and their language, where Creole comes back, and now we do actually even teach it in school and we emphasize on it. But before, it was even like rude to speak Creole to your parents or something like that. So, but I remember the first time I went to Martinique, and the first time I met a Bépé. I didn't know he was a Bépé. I just saw a white guy speaking Creole, like, you know, I was like, okay, and you do, it's not always Creole is still I remember it's like when you go to Senegal and you will hear all the Lebanese community that do speak Wolof as well. It's really something that's integrated. Yeah, Creole is the language.
Yeah, and also Creole has a lot of French in it.
Yes.
So it is an official language. It is a language. It is not a dialect, but it's closer to a dialect than a language, though, in the sense that it's, even if you don't speak fluent Creole, you can still pick it up, because if you're French, like, there are a couple of things, I mean, a lot of words in a sentence that could be just French, you know. There's no translation for it, just being French. But to go back to the point that you made about, like, the most of the film, it is in Creole, and that's actually, I don't know why they did that, but I think that, first of all, like, my character is a radio host, singer, and she sings in Creole. So I guess, yeah, maybe that's also the reason why. And a lot of the tracks are original tracks, like very like classical, traditional songs of Martinique, of the French Caribbean. So yeah, once you know the whole, and they're very old songs, yeah. So
thank you, Ingrid. Yes. I have next a question that's from Javed D'Souza. And he's also, so he knows we already mentioned the symbol of the butterfly, but he would like you to, if you can precise, is the use, so your use of the wings of the butterflies, if there's any other subliminal messaging from what we mentioned already. So if you want to say even a bit more on the symbol of the butterfly and of the wings.
I think there's a lot of things about the butterfly, like the butterfly incarnates the youth, the fact that they were promised some changes, but they just end up burnt. The butterfly is also symbol of hope. It's like it's like the wings are the wings represent the hope of the youth, which is burned.
Yeah, and I will also say that the wings of butterflies are very fragile, and the life of a butterfly is very short and ephemeral. And the question, the main question of the music video is what is the next step for the character? Will he will he survive? Will he choose to do a next step to go through the violences and the drugs and etc. Even if it's very hard and yes, he's very dark thoughts which are very hard to live with, and this is the symbol of the butterfly is that yes, it's fragile, it's quite difficult, but maybe he can live. So yeah, as Cedric said, it's a symbol also of hope.
It's also we shoot it the way we shot it and the way we show it. It's like a drug, and it represents the life in Guadeloupe. Like if you stay stuck in it for too long, it blinds you like a drug. Like you cannot see nothing else but that. But there's bigger things to life, I guess. I don't know.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, actually, I'm moving on with you guys as well with a question from Aiko Odette, that we congratulate as well on all the amazing work. We congratulate you, Aiko, Beth, Karen, Olivia, all the team of amazing women who put all of this together. Good job. And Aiko has a question for you, and she wants to ask you, what's next? What are you working on for next?
Go ahead.
What's your next project?
I've been working on a series which is going to be shot in Guadeloupe, which might be coming out soon, maybe in April or May. I'm also working on a short film, which is which the story takes place in the same period of time as Goyave, and it's going to be shot in Guadeloupe, and Lucas got nice things too.
Yeah, but
Tell us.
we we will stay working together, but from my point, me, I'm working mainly on a series about Caribbean mythologies. That's why I really liked Kafou, because
Yes.
of all the the representations of the engagement, the story with the dog, for example, the metaphor, all of the signs in the movie really impressed me, and I really love this movie. So congrats. and yeah, I would like to do more universal stories with engagement with our culture, but to provide our culture through the world, and I think Kafou, for example, is a good example that it's possible to make this type of stories.
Mm-hmm. And to have people like to expand them, to have
Yeah.
to have our realities, your realities shared. And I think that this is I mean, we can't wait to have the physical Hairouna Film Festival back in Vinci, but I think it's really amazing to be able to have it online so that we can also have all of those same interactions with all of you guys. Voni Rudet, our dear Voni, is asking Gilbert, where did you get funding from for Kafou?
Sorry, yeah, okay. Kafou, it's hard to find money in Haiti. It's practically impossible. So we had some funding. It was more personal funding and some local sponsors. Not a lot, but most of the funding came from two major sponsors. One of them is a hotel, and the other one is Bruno's fund, personal funding. So we had some funding from like the local beer, which is the Prestige. You probably know it if you ever drank it. And we had another one. I forgot which one, but yeah, that was the funding part for the question about funding.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, because you know that you have many more questions to respond to after. But before that, we're going to have a question for Ingrid first. And that's a question from Aiko. And she's asking if you can talk a little bit about the role of music in Goyave. The singing is very beautiful. And she's asking, why did the directors choose to have the musician performing within the scenes in this way? Or why did they choose to make the musician a character in the film?
Thank you, Aiko, for the question. I think that really from their background, as I said earlier, it's really poetry that inspired them to incorporate this character, which is like a fictional character almost, but appears to be real towards the end or like halfway through. And so the person who's watching it can be like a little bit confused, or if you're really paying attention, then you're really realizing it's in the male's character's mind or imagination that yeah, it's really poetry. It's like you look at it as an imaginary scenario that this guy is just putting together in his mind, like a lot of people do, like the human mind does, dreaming. And yeah, it becomes a character in the entire movie. So they love, I mean, they're very interesting people, Nènèb and Christophe. So they're both actually, that's what they used to do for fun after work. So Nènèb is an engineer, and he has a big family, and that's why he's not here tonight. And so he's taking care of his kids. But so he works for a mobile company as an engineer, and Christophe is a nurse, and an independent nurse. And so it's it's interesting how they've been like building this relationship together for many years. And they met, both of them met when they were performing slamming, which is poetry in different clubs. I'm not sure exactly where, but it was in Martinique, and that's where they met, and they did competitions, and so they decided
one
to.
of them is the slam champion or something like this, I think.
Yeah, exactly. They did competition as champion. I mean, the way they write is very interesting. So it's very unique in a way to portray like that very, as you said earlier, very. It is a controversial or like very hot topic that not a lot of filmmakers dare to talk about. Because it's very sensitive topic in Martinique. So the way where the music is incorporated, it eases the heat.
It makes it smoother.
It makes it smoother. And with me singing, and so I think this is really why they decided to, because all their work has been to always share a very specific message about the roots of their history, the history of Martinique and Guadeloupe, because they're both. So Nènèb is from Martinique and Christophe is from both islands. So yeah, that was their goal. And for the next film, they're just going to just develop more stories around, you know, specific realities of these islands, Martinique and Guadeloupe. So I hope I answered the question about the music. It is very interesting too. If you look at the credits, you can actually Google those songs, and they're very old songs. You can find them on YouTube. I've been, just as a side note, I've been like, my husband is American, and he was helping me. I live in New York, and he was helping me speak the language, like just really rehearse the songs, because they're very difficult, like to learn. The rhythm of it was not easy to get. So I was like rehearsing for a long time, I think for 3 months. And until they had actually someone, I had a backup on set to help me with the rhythm, and also she was a singer, and so we had a cover that was already planned, but they had not told me before. So I was like working on this character until they, you know, yeah, don't worry about it, we have a cover. Well, why you didn't tell me? They really wanted me to get the, you know, the lyrics, to learn everything.
Absolutely.
It is the opening scene of the film, and it's such a very important way to open. And also the lyrics, when you read the subtitles, when you read the translation, it's very, very deep into the history of slavery, of also the time when the people in Martinique started to have what we could be called like a revolution, basically. So and we see like images in the film that are archive images of what happened. So all this, yeah, all the music is linked to a lot of different things. So thank you, Aiko, for the question.
It's like folk songs. It's like where you do learn some of the history, some of the cultures, of where words have a lot of power, a lot of importance, and where their transmission also is very important, because it is also part of that we do transmit with those songs. So that's very important. And you are beautiful in the movie. That's very nice. And my mom is a poet, you know, so I'm super sensitive to poetry. Yes. So yes.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and so, I want to give a shout out to our makeup artist, because she made me like amazingly beautiful in the film, and also the light person, the light guy. He's very famous in Martinique and probably in Guadeloupe too. He's like the guy to go to. He's close to 70 years old, I think. He's 70, wow. I think 75. And we had like long nights outside in the, you know, in the garden, and we had to have like good lights. And he's the guy, and his name is Charlie, with a Y, like very American, but also very, very Creole, black guy, you know, from Martinique. And it's so funny. He's like so specific about his lighting. He has all kinds of equipment, and I'm sure probably Cedric knows them, the guy.
That's awesome. And that's great that you also can be meeting those kind of characters when you're experimenting those like filming, shooting. It's meeting like even with the team. I mean, you're all working with people. Gilbert was saying Bruno put his own funds. You all come from personal history, personal knowledge of each other, and then you end up working together, and that's really that also what makes the beautiful result, because there's also a connection and you can feel it with people working together. Gilbert, we have more questions for you. We have Future Smith that's asked, what role do you see your films, very important, having on the impact within your society, and is there any pragmatic use for them outside of film entertainment?
Well,
you're an activist, right? So
yes. For me, cinema plays an important role for any society. It's like a mirror of our humanity, if I could say. On top of it, it's educating, it's entertaining, and it's socially, it can educate, like I said, and even politically, it can educate. The other thing, me, I see it as a seed that you can plant in people's mind and push their mind even towards certain ideologies. The other thing as well, it's a way to see ourselves on screen and capture these moments as that we call culture. And our culture fundamentally is what keeps us going as a society. I would say for Haiti, I'm talking to Haiti, because we have a memory problem. I mean, well, so for me, I'm trying to put these things on screen so we Haitians, we Black people, we humans see ourselves on screen, so it can go on, and of course it plays a key role into memory. That's important for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, like the more we see, the more it's obvious, then the less it's possible as well, because it's more, you know, there's in a way you kind of exposing things that makes it maybe sometimes less difficult, more difficult, sorry. We have more questions for you, Gilbert, and it's Javed D'Souza that has few questions for you actually. First, did you all have to change up anything on the script while shooting because of the difficulties that you faced?
No, we didn't change anything. The script was the same. We wrote it in about 3 months and we left it as is, never changed.
And then how did you all stay focused on Kafou being the big project that it is, and how did you all stay on track and keep the flow and the continuity of it all? Sorry, most of all, since you mentioned that it took different times.
Yeah, the continuity was really tough because I was writer, script writer, producer, executive producer. I was everything. I was even script. It was difficult. We had people helping us, but unfortunately, we were so passionate. It was our first film. I think I was mopping, I was shooting, I was doing everything. So Bruno was doing the same thing. It was our baby. So we made sure all the details were on point. Like the commissioner's office, the set, literally, I'm not a set designer, but I did the set. I did the set with Bruno. We kind of put everything. We did the whole set. But it was, I don't know, back then I didn't see it as a challenge. We were having fun. We were shooting our first film. No, we were just doing our thing. And in our advantage, let's not forget, it's literally 3 sets. So you had the first set, the first location where you had the commissioner's office, then you had the crossroad, and then you had the slum. So it wasn't that difficult. And since we knew we had to do like 4 sessions, actually we did 5, but the last session was, never mind, but it was 4 sessions. The 4 sessions, we kind of did, okay, the first 2 weeks we're gonna do office, crossroad, and then we did slum. So we kind of put a system in place so we couldn't lose track.
Awesome, okay, understand. Very good. And as you say, I mean, it was your baby, and most of all, when it comes from personal funds or from funds you went and begged hard for, you counting, you learn to do things yourself a lot. There's another question for you, Gilbert. That could be also for Bruno, but I'm sure that you can respond most of all since what you just said. What methods do you use to motivate the proper emotions from your actors?
Ooh, the actors they're good. They have a theater background. One of them even studied humor and stand-up in Montreal. And Bruno took a training back in, I think he did a training in England for a week, and then another one in New York, how to challenge, motivate, and direct actors. So I think this helped him a lot. And the challenge basically, how do I say that? Maybe Ingrid knows that. It's just, you have to live the moment. You have to put yourself into the person's shoes. Like most people, you do method acting. My actors, they do method acting. So if the scene, if they have to be beaten, they're gonna ask to be beaten to feel the raw emotion so they can play it well. So it's not hard for these two actors to do it because they love these challenges, and the director himself is very exigeant. I don't know. He's very demanding. Yeah, demanding in his work, and yeah. So.
Yeah, and then as we were saying, I guess it is also a reality that is so close to you all that you can relate to it. They can relate to it also directly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There is a final question for everyone, and that's also an important one. So the Hairouna Film Festival started since the 13th of March. I hope you guys got to see some movies, and it's still going on until the 27th. Via Strong asks, what are your thoughts on the similarities or differences between the French Caribbean's approach to filmmaking and the English Caribbean's approach to filmmaking? From your experience, and you are free to.
I don't know.
I can answer this as a. Oh, it looks like.
That's the Ingrid. One second.
Okay, I'm also a producer and also method actor also, but as far as I think I'm not going to talk about artistically because I think it depends on the experience that the filmmaker has. I don't know if there is like a English speaking Caribbean way of doing filmmaking. Maybe there is, but like the Caribbean it's such a vast territory. So I think it's more fair to address like each single island. I don't think the Caribbean people look like they say I mean, usually people say I'm from this country and not I'm Caribbean. You know what I mean? It's just like on the outside of the Caribbean, we look at it, oh, that's the Caribbean. But when you're in the Caribbean, you say where you're from. So I think that there's not really like a difference like that, like French or English. But to me, like it's more on the funding process that is more different, because in the French Caribbean you do have access, even though is like minimal, but you do have more access to grants and public funding, versus in the English, speaking Caribbean countries, because they're independent and it's very different money that is coming from different sources, versus French, it's coming from France, and there is a huge, and I say huge, but it's, everything is relative. It's not huge for Martinique, but when you look at it, from a different perspective, it is much better. So that would be the difference between English and French, to my just opinion.
Yes, that's true. That we do have, and I see this from my work with the Alliance Française, there's a lot of access of funds from culture for the, as you say, it could always be better and we might always complain, but it's still.
We always want more, because it is true that it's not, and not everybody has access to it. And that's kind of a problem in the French Caribbean, where people want to have more access and they cannot because they did not do enough, so it's very bureaucratic in a way.
Anyone else want to add something there? Cédric, you wanted to say something?
I think that from an artistic point of view, I don't focus on the differences. What I like with the Caribbean approach of filmmaking is the way that there's so much people around from those islands who in fact are really close, who share the same stories as us, who grew up learning the same things in life, and from a narrative point of view, it's like we really share something in common. I like to say that we don't know, maybe we came in the same boat, and what I like in taking part of this kind of festival is the way that it always amazes me to see that those people are the same as me. We might not speak the same language, but we learn the same things.
Absolutely. And there is a common history, as you say, and that's what we're saying, as much as there can be different languages to bring more barriers between people, there's a lot of things in common, even in all of the movies that we see, well, between you all, and also that a lot of people that are watching, that did watch, I'm sure can refer to, and that were probably very surprised to see, oh, well, they also have that, and even in the language, I'm sure there's a lot of things, of way to say it, and that's very interesting. That's great. And I don't know if anyone else, Gilbert, anyone else want to add something on that?
I'll just bounce on what Cedric said. It's I've traveled a lot with Kafou, and I've went to in a lot of festivals. I could put Kafou on mute, and all the films I've seen in all these festivals, there's a lot of similarities. Even though it's in French or Creole, doesn't matter. It's just these are the same stories. We're kind of brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. So Caribbean films, thank you for this festival, because we need more Caribbean films on screen. It's very important for our representation, for who we are, of our culture, our history. And I think, yeah, so I don't think there's a difference between English or French. It's just, these are our stories. These are us. This is who we are.
Awesome.
I want to say one thing, because I'm reading the comments in the chat, and maybe the French are more raw, they're more direct than the British people or British islands. That's one thing that we know how to do. We're direct.
That's true.
There is no bullshit. Not saying that the British islands are, but like this is the French way.
Let's taboo in addressing things more like openly. Yes.
Maybe that's because there's someone who's like, but there's something different, I can't quite put my finger on it. And I think that's the way. I think that would be the...
Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid. Luca, anything you want to add?
No, I fully agree with what they said. It's the same boat, and I saw all the short movies and some feature on with the festival, and it's the same kind of stories, the same scheme of family. It's the same stories, I think.
You will laugh at the same thing when you have like the parents. So I know, like in the movie that we had, Here is Paris, also with the role of the mom, where she's very, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that mom and can like actually relate to those situations. So, well, we will take as our final comment coming from Vonnie Roudets. And, in St. Vincent, I mean, we say that behind every great man, there's a greater woman. Well, behind every great woman, there's also a greater woman. And behind Aiko, there's Vonnie. And Vonnie in St. Vincent has to be applauded for giving a lot of youth the power to think that they can actually make a living with their arts. And there's a lot of people, including in the filmmakers that we have in the festival, that have been inspired and pushed by Vonnie. So we're really thankful for Vonnie. And she is, as the rest of the audience, really appreciating. She really enjoyed the panel of French speakers this evening. And she enjoyed the fact that you all spoke English. for their benefits. And I also enjoyed it because I didn't have much translation. I didn't have any translation to do. So you all made it really easy for me. So congratulations to all. Thank you again. That was really, really great looking at your movies and then sharing this discussion with you. It's really a pleasure having you all. And I was really happy to be your host this evening. I would like to invite everybody to stay tuned with the rest of the activities with the festival. Tomorrow, March 25th, will be about environmental focus with more short films from Cuba, Dominica, Guadeloupe, and our own SVG and Trinidad and Tobago relating to our environmental issues and conservation in the Caribbean. There will also be a feature film called Uncivilized, I will get it, about a man who is living in the forest when a hurricane hits in Dominica. So don't miss that, and that will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Merci beaucoup, thanks a lot. Thanks to everybody who's been joining us this evening. Bonne continuation à vous.
Merci.
Et à bientôt. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Enjoy
so
your
much,
evening.
everyone,
Thanks.
for watching. Thank you. Nice to meet
Bye.
you all.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you too.